Amazing rescue. She saved a Mafia boss's mother from drowning. Now her life is transformed forever. Sarah Hayes awoke to the sharp echo of her alarm, a haunting reminder of the weight on her shoulders. At just 28, she balanced double shifts at Denny's and the ever-growing demands of caring for her ailing mother. Each day, she buried her dreams of nursing deep inside, overshadowed by bills and scrutinizing glares. In her small New Jersey coastal town, whispers followed her. She was just a waitress, not deserving of aspiration, not worth a second glance. The salt of the ocean would still call to her spirit, yet the weight of a community's judgment dragged her down. A familiar melancholy hung in the air as she gathered up her things. Around her the stories of perseverance told through her family's sacrifices echoed loudly. She was willing to put in the hard work, as her grandmother would say, loyalty and dedication define one's character. But could those values coexist with the dreams flickering like candle flames in her heart? One fateful Saturday afternoon, Sarah joined a local beach cleanup. As the sun glinted off the waves, she lost herself in the rhythm of her movements, gathering plastic and trash, thoughts swirling between her current role and her aspirations, hoping to preserve the world for the future she wanted. Then, a sudden commotion shattered her focus, a frantic scream followed by panic. Turning, she saw an elderly woman battling the surging tide, her frail body engulfed by waves. Without a second thought, Sarah screamed and dashed into the cold gripping water. Adrenaline surged, muscles strained, and fear merged with determination as she lunged, grabbing the woman's arm. With every ounce of strength, she dragged her back to the shore, heaving them both onto the sand. Gasps filled the air as the woman's eyes locked onto Sarah's, full of gratitude but laced with an unexpected weight. The days following the rescue unraveled like an intricate midnight tapestry. Then, Anthony Ricci arrived at Sarah's doorstep. There was little connection between them until now. Elegant in a tailored suit, he stood wrapped in an aura that felt both ominous and magnetic. She felt absurd in her waitress uniform, suddenly aware of the differences that defined their lives. Gratitude dripped from his words, an offer of a scholarship to nursing school that made her heart race. The dream she had been forced to suffocate flickered to life, but then shadows crept in. Accepting aid from someone whose family was woven in crime felt like a betrayal, a path that could mar her hard work with the brush of darkness. As she rummaged through her grandmother's belongings, letters emerged, revealing hints her family had ties to Anthony's world. The realization jolted her, unraveling her loyalty like a tightly wound thread. How could she step into a future drenched in uncertainty, risking the deep values she carried with her? Caught amidst swirling thoughts, her breaths quickened. Friends turned their backs, gossip like blades pierced her heart. The community's judgment loomed large, heavier than before. Each morning at work, she felt the weight of eyes and ears lurking, waiting to dissect her choices had she crossed too far into the unknown. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tornado of anxiety spiraled within her as the echoes of her family's past intertwined with her present, leaving her reeling. Thoughts raced, muscles tense, and doubts a relentless storm pushing against her. Should she accept Anthony's help and step into his shadow, or fight against it? And carve her own path? Each moment hung heavy like an unwelcome guest in her mind, leaving her stuck between dreams and an emergence of a legacy she never sought. Here she stood at the precipice, willing to dig deep into her roots or defy a future she didn't know she could embrace. The choice loomed, echoing louder with every heartbeat, every fleeting thought of what could be, and the chaos around her tightened its grip. Sarah's heart raced as she navigated through the storm of conflicting thoughts. The offer from Anthony Ricci weighed heavily on her mind. Every day at Denny's was a reminder of the life she wanted to escape, but also the life that kept her alive. An opportunity, a fleeting chance to pursue nursing tempted her, yet each thought collided with the realities surrounding her. echoing her mother's frail laughter and the dignity that came with self-sufficiency. Days passed in a relentless blur as Sarah wrestled with her conscience. Each shift felt harder, lifting plates and serving coffee while her dreams festered in the corners of her mind. Co-workers whispered, echoes of volleyed judgment seemed to bounce off the walls with every dish she washed, every table she cleared. Friends she had known for years suddenly avoided her gaze, their silence entrenching her in a cocoon of isolation. One night, during the drive home, her mother coughed painfully in the passenger seat, the sound splintering Sarah's thoughts. Detached from her surroundings, she lost herself in memories of her childhood, their games, laughter in the garden, and her mother's sing-song descriptions of a future laced with possibilities. She fought back tears, determination mingling with despair. The phone buzzed, and the screen lit up with a message from Anthony. Have you thought about my offer? I can arrange a meeting for you to see the school. A twist of anxiety tightened around her chest, yet curiosity surged beneath it. Perhaps it was time to confront both her dreams and the shadows that lurked there. With trembling fingers, she typed a simple response, yes. The decision felt as heavy as lifting a barbell twice her size, but it also felt liberating, like lifting the weight of expectation from on her shoulders. As she arrived home, her mother sat in the kitchen, the late-hour light casting a warm glow around her. You know, Sarah, sometimes change can feel scary, but it's how we grow, her mother said, stirring a pot of soup. Her voice, though frail, carried an undeniable strength, a reminder of the resilience in their bloodline. Tomorrow's meeting could be an opportunity for Sarah to breathe, a chance to elevate herself beyond the shadows. That night, Sarah lay awake, the moon casting soft shadows. She envisioned nursing school, crammed lecture halls, late-night study sessions, the rush of adrenaline as she learned to administer care. But at what cost? Standing again at the crossroads, she felt an undeniable surge of determination. She wanted to embrace this new path while being mindful of her roots. That in the ensuing days, Sarah prepared for the meeting, poring over nursing school brochures and recalling every detail she had gleaned from her grandmother's stories about her family. With each passing moment, she transformed her anxiety into a calculated focus, envisioning herself walking through the school's doors with confidence, forging her own narrative. But the looming specter of Anthony's world shadowed her enthusiasm. If accepting the scholarship meant dancing on the fine line of moral ambiguity, how would she ensure her integrity wasn't compromised? Questions bubbled in her mind, refusing to settle. The hours before the meeting dwindled, and just as the moment approached, a text rang in, "Let us discuss your future. But remember, every choice has its price." With his words echoing, doubt slapped against her. Was she ready to face the world that Anthony represented? As she looked into the mirror, she saw a flicker of the woman she hoped to become, the nurse she had always wanted to be. But couched in the reflection was also fear, looming like dark clouds on the horizon. Whispering to herself, she steadied her breath, "I can forge my own path." The phone buzzed again, and her heart raced. What awaited her on the other side of that meeting might forever reshape her understanding of loyalty, ambition, and self-worth. A decision loomed, and as she stepped toward the door, she knew she was only beginning to scratch the surface of this unfolding reality. What if stepping into Anthony's world wasn't just a chance at her dreams but also a revelation of her true self? Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, hands trembling slightly, as she replayed the words of Anthony Ricci in her mind. Every choice has its price. They penetrated her thoughts, dissolving any lingering excitement she had about the meeting. The weight of her decision pressed down on her like an iron anchor, dragging her deeper into an ocean of uncertainty. The sun broke through the clouds on the day of the meeting, casting a golden light that seemed out of place for the turmoil stirred within her. Her resolve had been fortified with determination, yet doubts flittered at the edges of her consciousness. Was she truly prepared to step into a world defined by power struggles and moral ambiguity? As she walked towards the meeting location, the pulse of the city pulsated around her. Each footstep reverberated with the echoes of her past, every late-night shift at Denny's, every moment spent caring for her mother. These experiences had shaped her, imbuing her with resilience, but they also foreshadowed the potential consequences of her choices now. Simon, Anthony's trusted associate, greeted her with a wry smile outside the coffee shop that Anthony had chosen for their meeting. "He's running a bit late. Grab a coffee, it's on me." The casualness in Simon's demeanor prickled her skin. There was an undertone she couldn't quite decipher. She could feel the curious stares of the patrons as she quietly tried to blend in, reminding herself of the person she aspired to be, someone strong, uninhibited by apprehension. When Anthony finally arrived, he enveloped her with the confidence that had characterized their previous conversations. "Sarah, I'm glad you came," he said, leaning casually against the wall, his voice smooth as silk. "I see potential in you, and I want to help you harness it." They exchanged pleasantries, but the subtle air of manipulation loomed in the corners of their interaction. Anthony presented the details of the nursing program she aspired to join, but underneath his words lay an unspoken power he possessed, one that she both feared and yearned to embrace. "So, what's the catch?" she dared to ask, trying to keep her voice steady. He chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "Catch? Just that you need to understand how to navigate these waters, Sarah. Knowledge and autonomy come with sacrifice." The silence draped over them like a heavy curtain. The back-and-forth dance of their conversation began to reveal the real price of her dream. She would not just be a student, she would be entangled in a web of expectations, loyalties, and moral dilemmas much larger than herself. "Your mother's illness weighs heavily on you," he noted, his gaze piercing into her. "Your strength should come from securing your own future. I can help with that." The mention of her mother resonated deep within her. At that moment, she was confronted with the duality of her struggle. If she accepted his offer, she would not only pursue a nursing career but also dance dangerously close to compromising her ethics. Could ambition justify these entanglements? As the meeting wore on, she could feel the lingering weight of his offer growing oppressive. She needed to challenge herself, test her boundaries, and emerge stronger, not just dependent on a hand extended from shadows. As they concluded their conversation, Anthony leaned in a little closer. "I can ensure you get in. All you need to do is say yes." The choice hung before her like an uncut jewel, glinting with promise yet veiled in risk. Would she step beyond the threshold, daring to grasp her dreams at any cost? That night, as she lay in bed, her eyes unsettled and restless, the decision gnawed at her, the gnawing roots of ambition entwined with fear. How far was she willing to go to transform her life? In the quiet darkness, she whispered, "I will not lose sight of who I am." Then, a chilling thought crossed her mind. Had she already begun that descent into a world where morality blurred and ambition could corrupt? The only way forward was to uncover the truth, not just about Anthony, but about herself. With dawn approaching, a new question consumed her: what sacrifices would she be willing to make when choosing her future? The morning sun pierced through her curtains, casting beams of light that danced across the walls, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her. Sarah sat up in bed, the warmth of the sunlight offering a fleeting sense of comfort that was quickly overpowered by the decision she faced. The lingering specter of Anthony's offer loomed large in her mind, intertwining with her ambition like a vine strangling a tree, its grip firm, suffocating. With a deep breath, she stood, her reflection in the mirror revealing a woman etched with uncertainty. The question of independence and ethical compromise had become a daily companion. She longed for the nursing program that would shape her future but grappled with the implications of the paths she could take. Each potential choice seemed to press against her chest like a weight she could neither ignore nor embrace fully. She turned her attention to the tasks ahead. Her responsibilities at home were relentless. The familiar scent of coffee brewed in the kitchen, her mother's frail voice calling out for her. As she poured a cup, a wave of determination washed over her. This was a moment to reflect. What would her mother think of the risks she might take? Would she support Sarah's ambition, or would she caution against crossing moral lines? "Sarah, darling, are you okay?" Her mother's voice pierced through her thoughts. The concern in her eyes was palpable, a reflection of her own doubts. "I'm fine, Mom. Just thinking about the future." Her mother's gaze lingered, and Sarah felt the urge to confide in her, to voice the conflict brewing within. But she resisted. The shadows of her decisions were not hers alone to share. Instead, she smiled, channeling her resolve, determined to find clarity away from the burdens of shame and expectations. After breakfast, Sarah took a walk. The city was alive, each passerby a reminder of the multifaceted lives intersecting in this urban tapestry. She searched for anything that could trigger a revelation about her own journey. As she strolled through the park, the laughter of children caught her attention, the innocence of their joy juxtaposed sharply against her turmoil, the urge to run headlong into her dreams clashed with the anxiety of the uncertainty they carried. In a moment of reflection, she leaned against a tree, closing her eyes as the bark scratched her hands. What did she want to be? A nurse devoted to helping others, or a pawn in a game dictated by someone else's desires? Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was a message from Simon, terse yet bold. Anthony wants to see you again. Tomorrow. An uneasy flutter rippled through her stomach, splintering her resolve. This was at the moment she would either step back into Anthony's world or reclaim her narrative. The choice meant more than just a career path, it was a pivot point. Her ethics, her sense of self, all hinged on the decision that awaited her. In the quiet of that park, surrounded by ephemeral beauty, Sarah realized she needed to confront more than just Anthony's offer. She had to confront the depth of her own aspirations and the strength she possessed. She resolved to prepare for this meeting with a clear intention. She would not simply accept what was presented to her, she would negotiate. She had power too, cultivated through her life experiences, her struggles, and the unwavering love for her mother. What if she could find a way to bridge ambition with integrity? As she returned home, a fire ignited within her. She would equip herself with knowledge and leverage in their next conversation. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow across her bedroom. Tomorrow would not just bring another meeting, it would be an opportunity for her to redefine her worth in this new world. Before she went to sleep, she whispered again, I will not lose sight of who I am. But now, with determination churning beneath her skin, she embraced a new question. What if she could turn the tables, rather than be ensnared by them? What strategies would she employ to reclaim her agency in a world designed to manipulate her? The dawn of tomorrow loomed, and this time, she would face it armed with resolve. As dawn broke over the city, its golden rays spilled warmth into Sarah's room, illuminating her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt before. She rose, her heart a drumbeat of determination. The meeting with Anthony was no longer a source of dread but an opportunity to articulate her ambitions and protect the integrity she fought to uphold. She dressed with intention, each piece of clothing a shield against the doubts that had clouded her mind. In the mirror, she practiced the words she would say. The phrases danced in her head. I deserve to be valued for my skills, she rehearsed. I am not a tool for your gain. Each assertion built her confidence as she laced her shoes, feeling the groundedness of their soul beneath her feet. A quick breakfast was filled with her mother's distracted chatter. Today, Sarah's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, barely absorbing her mother's reminders to double-check her bag or eat a proper meal. She nodded, responding mechanically. On her way to the cafe where they would meet, she reflected on the stakes being higher than ever. This was no longer just a negotiation over a nursing program, it was a battle for her identity. She recalled her mother's struggles and sacrifices, their shared moments of laughter dimmed by the shadows of worry. She confronted the feeling that had plagued her for years, the susceptibility to others' opinions, the fear of being perceived as selfish. Today, that fear would find its counterbalance in her resolve. Arriving at the cafe, she spotted Anthony seated at a corner table, his demeanor as assured as ever. He glanced up, a glint of interest in his eyes, as if he already knew the play he intended to orchestrate. Sarah squared her shoulders, drawing energy from the life pulsing outside. The strangers who owned their destinies didn't bow easily or give in to intimidation. Good morning, Sarah, he greeted, a smooth smile spreading across his lips. Anthony, she replied, her tone steady. We need to discuss what this partnership looks like for me, not just for you. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline, it was the first step towards rewriting the script that had been handed to her. They ordered coffee, and as it steeped, she seized the moment to articulate her worth. "I'm committed to developing my skills as a nurse," she began, grounding her vision within the values she held dear. "If we're to work together, I need clear alignment on how my goals will be supported." For every attempt Anthony made to steer the conversation towards his desires, she countered with an articulate, passionate resolve for her ambitions. With each volley, she discovered a sense of agency swelling inside her. What if her aspirations carried as much weight as his desire for control? "Well, you'll need to understand that my world operates differently," he said, a hint of irritation now lacing his voice. "You'll be required to adapt and learn while maintaining my integrity," Sarah interjected, surprising even herself with the starkness of her words. "I refuse to compromise." The noise of the bustling cafe faded into the background. Every flicker of uncertainty from earlier was replaced by fierce clarity. The conversation shifted, reflecting her growing self-awareness. She wasn't just selling her skills, she was demanding recognition for her potential, her creativity, and her compassion. As they continued to talk, a curious tension lingered in the air. Anthony could feel her defiance. She was transforming before his eyes, and beneath his calm facade, he was rattled. It became evident, this meeting was not just another routine encounter. It was a prelude to a confrontation neither of them fully understood. By the end, as they concluded their conversation and talked of potential compromises, Sarah sat back, heart racing, considering the road ahead. What began as a mere negotiation had morphed into a strategic chess match, one where she might just hold the upper hand. The thrill of power surged within her, whispering promises of further growth and determination, but also cautioning her of the challenges they represented. As she stepped outside the cafe, sunlight warmed her face, illuminating her path forward. The entire city felt ripe with possibilities. But just as surely as adrenaline coursed through her, a question echoed in her mind: was she prepared to navigate the darker realms Anthony might involve her in, always aware of the moral line she refused to cross? And what would it cost her to maintain this newfound strength? She felt the stakes rising once again, leaving uncertainty slithering in the corners of her thoughts, waiting to strike. The adrenaline from her negotiation with Anthony began to dissipate, leaving Sarah at the threshold of a deeper understanding of her journey. As she walked through the bustling streets, the energy of the city pulsed around her like a living thing, feeding her resolve. It wasn't just that she had held her ground with Anthony, it was the realization that she had ignited a spark within herself. However, a gnawing worry lingered just beneath her determined facade. What lay ahead in this partnership with Anthony, who had made it clear he played a different game? Was she merely stepping into a calculated trap, or was this an opportunity to assert her values in a high-stakes environment? Determined to channel her focus, she sought out her mentor, Mrs. Ramirez, a seasoned nurse whose guidance had been invaluable to Sarah during her initial steps into the profession. Finding sanctuary in the comforting familiarity of the hospital, she entered the break room, where the faint smell of coffee and the chatter of colleagues provided a soothing backdrop. "Sarah, you look energized," Mrs. Ramirez observed as she noticed the glint in Sarah's eye. With a slight smile, Sarah took a seat across from her, feeling the weight of her earlier encounters wash over her. "I had an important meeting. It felt different this time. I stood up for myself." "I'm proud of you," Mrs. Ramirez replied, tilting her head with curiosity. "What prompted this shift?" Sarah recounted her conversation with Anthony, emphasizing the breakthroughs and the internal battles she had fought. She watched as a myriad of emotions flickered across Mrs. Ramirez's face: pride, anxiety, but also caution. "You expressed your worth. That's vital," Mrs. Ramirez nodded, "but understand that in this world, being transparent about what you want can open both doors and traps." Those words struck a chord. "I'm beginning to realize that. The stakes are higher. But I want to maintain my integrity. I feel empowered." Mrs. Ramirez leaned in, her gaze penetrating. "Being empowered also means recognizing the battles that are not yours to fight, and knowing when to step back. At times, we must choose which battles to engage, even if it feels like a retreat." Your values are what protect you. Sarah felt a shiver run through her. Mrs. Ramirez's insight grounded her in a reality she needed to confront. What if Anthony's demands put her values to the test in ways she hadn't anticipated? Have you thought about what matters most to you? Her mentor pressed, sensing her tension. It's not just about negotiating a partnership, it's about preserving who you are in the process. Taking a moment to reflect, Sarah realized that her commitment to nursing wasn't merely a profession, it was an extension of her identity. Her compassion, diligence, and integrity had always fueled her ambitions. If Anthony sought to exploit those traits, she needed a plan. I have to be strategic, Sarah concluded, her internal compass shifting. I want to cultivate my skills without sacrificing my values. Then align your actions with that clarity. And perhaps consider starting this journey with honesty, not secrecy. Sometimes, awareness can offer a shield against manipulation, Mrs. Ramirez advised, the weight of her experience lending authority to her words. Emerging from the hospital, Sarah felt a renewed sense of clarity. She had not only navigated a critical confrontation, she had gained insight into her values and the importance of strategy in her personal development. But as she stepped back into the rhythm of the city, a gnawing question tugged at her: would she be able to uphold her values if Anthony's true intentions were darker than he had revealed? With the stakes rising even higher, Sarah understood that this new chapter would demand more than courage, it would require unwavering resolve. Just as she prepared to chase down her objectives, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A crowd had gathered at the riverfront, voices rising in alarm. Sarah's instinct kicked in. She rushed toward the commotion, her heart racing as the electric tension in the air hinted that an unexpected test was about to emerge. What awaited her at the riverfront would challenge every conviction she had just cemented, forcing her to confront not just external circumstances but the depths of her own resolve. Sarah pushed through the throng of people, the noise becoming a dull roar as she focused on the chaos ahead. The riverfront was alive with panic. Some people were shouting for help, others were calling for someone to act. She squinted through the crowd and noticed a woman struggling in the water, thrashing against the current. Without pausing to consider the implications, Sarah bolted toward the water's edge. Fear and urgency washed over her, propelling her forward. She had been trained for emergencies, but never had she faced one quite like this. The instinct to help overpowered any doubts. "Someone call 911, she shouted, her voice slicing through the tumult. As she neared the water, she noticed the woman was older, her features twisted in terror. It struck Sarah that this woman might be someone important, but the identity slipped away as she focused on saving a life. Forgetting everything else, she jumped into the freezing water, the shock jolting her system but reigniting her resolve. Kicking hard to propel herself forward, Sarah battled against the current. The cold stung her limbs, but adrenaline coursed through her veins, sharpening her focus. Each stroke brought her closer, each moment a fight against the swirling water that threatened to drag her under. When Sarah finally reached the woman, she grasped her arm, pulling her closer. "I've got you. Just hold on." But the panic in the woman's eyes was overwhelming, and her flailing intensified. Sarah could feel the woman's strength waning, the cold seeping deeper into her own bones. With determination, Sarah tightened her grip, using her body to shield the woman from the harsh current. "You need to relax. Trust me." The words were as much for Sarah as they were for her terrified companion, a mantra to anchor them. Using every ounce of her strength, Sarah turned them both toward the shore. The current was relentless, but the mixed fear and hope propelled them through each stroke. It wasn't just about survival, it was a testament to every value she'd fought to establish: compassion, bravery, and integrity. Finally, with one last heave, they broke free from the worst of the current and the muddy ground of the riverbank became a solid reality beneath Sarah's feet. Her heart thundered as she dragged the woman ashore, collapsing beside her. The chaos around them blurred into the background, consumed by their shared moment of survival. "Are you okay?" Sarah gasped, her breath hitched. The woman nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. But as attention circled back to them, Sarah's heart caught in her throat. Flashing lights approached, and members of the crowd parted to make way for paramedics. Officers and onlookers began to shout questions, their stunned faces a mix of admiration and disbelief. Who saved her? Someone yelled that's when she recognized the woman. The sharp edges of reality twisted as she realized she had rescued Luisa Falcone, the mother of the infamous Mafia boss known for his ruthless grip on the city. Suddenly, the air shifted, air that had been filled with camaraderie now bristled with fear and scrutiny. As Luisa began to regain her composure, her eyes locked onto Sarah's. There was gratitude, but also a weight of something more profound, a knowledge of the unspoken risks that now hovered around her. The crowd's buzz grew, their gazes flicking between Sarah and Luisa, as if already predicting the sinister connections the rescue might forge. Sarah's pulse raced not just from the cold, but from the gravity of her decision. She had acted on instinct, but now realized how intertwined her fate might become with the Falcone family. Had she unwittingly thrown herself into a dark game, one that Anthony might have orchestrated from the beginning? Suddenly, the stakes had shifted. No longer was she just navigating a partnership, she found herself caught up in something much more complicated and potentially dangerous. As whispers filled the air around her, Sarah understood that the test of her values was only beginning. Was she strong enough now, not just to stand her ground, but to face the dark shadows lurking beyond the light? As the commotion around her grew louder, Sarah pondered her next steps. Would she forge an alliance with Luisa, or find herself in a labyrinthine web of deceit that could threaten everything she held dear? The moment felt defining, the choices unspooled ahead like an intricate dance, each step a gamble. As the paramedics arrived, Sarah knew one thing for certain: the path ahead was becoming clearer, yet the knots of danger pulled tighter. Would she embrace the complexity of this new alliance or pull away to safeguard her values? In this moment of uncertainty, one thing remained indisputable: the game had shifted, and she was firmly in play. The sirens wailed, cutting through the din, and the paramedics hurried to the scene. As they leaned in to assess Luisa, Sarah felt the burning weight of their stares, a spotlight that felt increasingly uncomfortable. Hands split the crowd, fingers pointing, whispers igniting a curiosity that bore too close to treachery. "Did you see that? She just jumped right in," someone remarked, their tone half impressed, half alarmed. With every moment, Sarah felt her anonymity slip away. They praised her bravery, but she knew the stakes were far higher than public acclaim. She might have saved Luisa Falcone today, but the implications of such a rescue loomed like dark clouds above. What might Luisa want from her now, after having her life intertwined with the very peril of a world Sarah barely understood? "Thank you," Luisa finally spoke, her voice trembling but determined. It was an invitation and a challenge, a quiet acknowledgement of a debt that perhaps couldn't be easily settled. "Let us get you checked out first," a paramedic interrupted, his professionalism cutting through the raw emotions. But Sarah's focus was already racing ahead, spinning between options like a slot machine, each possibility yielding varying degrees of risk. The flashes from cameras caught her from every angle as the media swarmed the area. Suddenly, she was not just a bystander, she was a player on a stage she had never intended to enter. In that moment, she faced a choice: embrace the attention or turn her back and vanish into the anonymity she once took for granted. She could meet Luisa's gaze or look away and deny that this moment changed everything. "Are you involved with her?" a reporter shouted, propelling Sarah into the spotlight with a single phrase that felt both inviting and dangerous. It pressed against her moral fiber, interrogating whether honesty or protection reflected her true character. Time warped as Sarah deliberated. She recalled her training, the swift lessons learned in leadership: consider the impact of every decision, weigh the consequences. But the sheer depth of her unexpected bond with Luisa complicated every analysis. Should she play it safe, retreat, maintain her distance from the darkness surrounding the Falcone name? Or would refusing to step closer be a betrayal of the vital principles she had cultivated over the years? It was a question crystallized with urgency, spinning her thoughts wildly. What if her saving act spun into an obligation, a chain she could not break? As the tension escalated, anxiety turned into resolve. She had learned the hard way that running from challenges only delayed the inevitable. Was she ready to engage with the complexities? "Sarah." The sound of her name pierced through the noise. She blinked, breaking free of the mental fog. Louisa was watching her intently, eyes full of a knowing glimmer, and every second spent hesitating shifted her perspective slightly more. "What kind of woman are you, really?" Louisa's question hung in the air, not as a demand but as an invitation. It dared Sarah to define herself beyond the accolades, beyond mere savior status. The path before her tensed with uncharted territory. To truly know herself and the choices that laid ahead meant a recalibration of her core beliefs. It signaled that perhaps her understanding of strength was evolving, layered with nuances she had yet to explore. Was strength merely in saving lives, or could it also be found in forming unexpected alliances? Just then, the realization hit her with renewed intensity. She had an opportunity to engage with Louisa, to draw upon whatever resources they might uncover together. But it came wrapped in layers of uncertainty and peril that could entangle her in ways she might not foresee. As Sarah inhaled deeply, she understood this was just the beginning. The complexities were brewing, and she stood at a precipice, ready either to leap into the unknown or let fear hold her back. She felt the decisions swirling around her, what to embrace and what to avoid, and she knew her journey had shifted profoundly. "What do you want from me, Louisa?" The question left her lips with a mix of defiance and curiosity, a challenge wrapped in vulnerability. Louisa's expression softened, and within it lay the unmeasured weight of all that could unravel or bind them together. "Let us talk," she finally replied, her voice even in knowing. As they turned away from the chaos, Sarah felt the energy shift. An uncharted alliance beckoned just on the horizon, one that could either fortify her values or dismantle everything she built for herself. In that moment, uncertainty crystallized into anticipation. What awaited her was no longer just a choice of action, it was a confrontation with her own identity and purpose. Sarah knew this was not an isolated decision, it was the start of a reckoning that might redefine everything she thought she stood for. Could she navigate the new undercurrents of this alliance without losing herself? Only time would tell. Sarah felt the air close in around her as she and Louisa moved away from the chaos of the scene, each step pulling her further from the world she knew. The murmurs from the gathering crowd faded, but the implications of her actions reverberated within her mind. What began as a split-second instinct to save a life had spurred a cascade of unforeseen challenges. She was stepping into an intricate tapestry woven with threads of danger, duty, and a desire for connection. As they reached a quieter spot, sheltered from the media barrage, the gravity of the moment settled over her like a weighty cloak. Sarah's heart raced. What kind of conversation awaited her? What expectations lay hidden beneath Louisa's calm demeanor? Louisa's vulnerability, brought on by her near drowning, contrasted sharply with the powerful persona she must have maintained as part of the Falcone legacy. "Here." Louisa gestured to a nearby park bench, her eyes scanning the surroundings for prying ears. Sarah nodded, choosing the path of honesty, conscious that her response would unveil the real Sarah Kern to this enigmatic woman aside her. She took a seat beside Louisa, the wood rough beneath her fingers as she gripped the bench, a grounding reminder of her presence in this moment. "What do you want to discuss?" Sarah probed, a note of urgency tinged in her voice. Louisa let a breath escape, steeling herself with the elegance that belied her recent panic. "You saved my life, Sarah. That can't just be an incident we sweep under the rug. I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't afraid to confront the shadows of my world." Trust. The word struck a chord, echoing the uneasy rhythm that trapped Sarah in a web of uncertainty. What did trust mean in the world of the Falcones, where power and control twisted loyalty into something manipulative? Her instincts screamed at her to maintain her distance, to question every motivation, but the compelling look in Louisa's eyes begged her to listen. "Unlike most people, you didn't hesitate," Louisa continued, her voice a mix of admiration and seriousness. "No matter what you thought of my family, you acted. That's something rare." Sarah's heart faltered, caught between the fierce loyalty she built for herself and the charge of excitement brewing in Louisa's words. The weight of her own perceptions bore down on her like an anchor, but could there be a different narrative to this relationship? A way to engage with strength that didn't revolve around saving someone, but rather co-navigating uncharted realities? I'm not part of your world, Sarah responded, her voice steadier than she felt. The Falcone name brings its own consequences. And those consequences will touch you, if you let them, Louisa replied, her tone unflinching. But think about it, your instincts are solid, and so is your courage. You could help me divert some of the storm brewing for our family, and in return, you would gain knowledge. Strength. Knowledge. Strength. Those concepts twisted in Sarah's mind, lighting the path ahead with enticing potential. Could this be an opportunity to acquire skills and insights she couldn't reach otherwise? Yet, an internal clash stirred within her. Fascination and moral apprehension collided violently. As Louisa continued, a new resolve sprang up within Sarah. What do you propose? Louisa leaned in, the flickering hope in her eyes mirrored by the shadows that danced just beyond the line of trust. We need to prepare for what's coming. If you'll join me, I can show you the world I navigate. And perhaps together, we could find a way to protect both of our interests. One without compromising your integrity. Louisa's words unfurled potential, opening a window that demanded Sarah's full engagement. But that engagement came with risks, entanglements. Could she assert herself in this new role without losing her footing or ideals? Sarah's thoughts raced towards a multitude of possibilities that could reshape everything she knew about herself. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow that mirrored the illumination of her choice as a decision lay before her. One that would challenge her to dive deeper into a world wrought with peril but fraught with potential. Let me think, Sarah said finally, where indecision grabbed at her but a new determination kept her grounded. As she looked into Louisa's urging eyes, Sarah felt her future morph in that moment, unveiling a road filled with promise and danger alike. What waited on the other side of that prospect? Only the next conversation would unveil the risks and revelations that crowded ominously at the periphery of her dawning reality. In the aftermath of her dramatic rescue of Louisa Falcone, Sarah Hayes stood at a crossroads that could carve distinct paths in her life. The media's firestorm and the ensuing scrutiny marked a significant shift not just in her personal narrative but within the realm of her ambitions, ethics, and identity. As she navigated through the din of applause and questions, a newfound sense of agency surged within her. Days turned into restless nights as Sarah processed the bewildering events that had engulfed her. The prospect of entering Louisa's world mingled with the exhilaration of her aspirations in nursing school, each representing contrasting but vital aspects of her journey. With each passing second, clarity emerged from chaos. She didn't have to compromise her integrity to make choices that served her ambitions. With vivid determination, Sarah set a meeting with Louisa. This time, the stakes were undeniably higher, and the tone marked by an electric tension. When they met, the familiar warmth of the sun dipped into the shadows of the trees surrounding them, a metaphor for their growing alliance. Sarah, this is an opportunity, Louisa began, poised and deliberate. We can navigate the complexities together, but we have to move delicately. The discussion laid bare the depth of Louisa's world, the doubts, the dangers, but also the potential for opportunities to emerge unscathed. I want to protect my family, but that doesn't mean you have to carry the weight of my world, Louisa emphasized. What if we form a partnership built on shared goals? Your nursing aspirations can benefit from my influence, and likewise, I can find strength in your integrity. In that moment, a spark ignited within Sarah. Maybe, just maybe, collaborating with Louisa represented an uncharted territory, a lane where she could align her ambitions for healing and professionalism, not as a pawn, but as an active participant in directing her narrative. I'll help you understand the shifts in the healthcare policies poised to challenge families like yours, Sarah offered, her newfound authority filling the air. In return, I need your guidance in navigating the influence your family holds. Louisa nodded, her expression a mixture of respect and admiration. Then we take this step together. We redefine what this means for both of us. Once their partnership was forged, Sarah embraced rigorous research on healthcare issues, linking them to the influences of crime and social disparities. She found herself more invigorated than ever, using her nursing know-how to unravel the complexities of medical misdeeds and systemic corruption. A budding confidence bloomed in her. This exchange of knowledge reinforced her standing as a woman wielding influence against the tides of fear. Weeks rolled forward, and amidst classroom schedules, nursing simulations, and privileged insights into Louisa's world, Sarah received a surprising validation of her growth. At a pivotal conference addressing healthcare disparities in communities struggling with crime, she was invited as a speaker, her voice recognized as one that blended compassion with professional insights. Our healthcare structures must evolve to protect every person, no matter their background, she proclaimed, the audience enraptured by her conviction. Cheers erupted as she advocated for a system rooted in integrity and empathy. Reflecting on her journey, the parallel tides of struggle she had faced and where she stood now struck her as monumental. Sarah Hayes was no longer the waitress buried under the weight of expectations. She had refashioned herself into a formidable advocate for change, channeling her past experiences into a solid foundation for her future. Walking off that stage, she embraced the applause, not with arrogance, but with the sweet ache of rightful recognition that tinged every nerve ending. As she exited the venue, Louisa waited, her smile genuine as they shared a moment of triumph. This partnership we formed isn't about shadows but allows us both to shine, she affirmed, and Sarah felt the truth in those words. They had taken their vulnerabilities and forged them into a resilience that defied stereotypes and expectations. With her mother's health stabilizing and newfound clarity in her academic pursuits, Sarah understood the intricate dance of life, a melody of ambition interwoven with steadfast values. She had not simply transcended her limits, she had navigated the realms of demand and consequence, stitching her narrative back from the threads of uncertainty into one of assured strength. Today, she found fulfillment in knowing that her choices echoed beyond mere ambition, they resonated with authenticity, resilience, and the transformative tapestry of her journey. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Trust me, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. You could influence the discourse and support others in their journeys. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of overcoming personal struggles understand the importance of supporting this channel through your actions.